budgeted for like, a certain demography. But today, that cannot be said. So beyond just reacting to government decision when it hike in price in fuel and the rest, we should look at the fundamentals.
Right.
How can we resuscitate our ailing industries? How can we go back to agriculture? How can we begin to concentrate more on small and medium scale businesses? This is what the civil society organizations, the academia, the labor union should be more concentrated on, and not necessarily waiting until there's a policy decision, then we react. Labor unionism is beyond workers' welfare.
Right.
It exists to shape governance, to shape government policies and the rest of it. This is where we should begin to look at it and go back to the drawing board and begin to hold local government chairmen responsible, because at the local level you also have workers.
Right.
Hold governors responsible. At that point, at that place, you also have workers. Then come to the federal, you also have workers. Beyond this, there are also Nigerians who are not in government, employed as government
in the public service.
We'll begin to see how the system can begin to service every strata of the society with no recourse to just the people in public service. Once that happens, the agitation for strike actions, for labor unionism would drastically reduce. And again, we're beginning to have so much of unionization of our governance. So much that every system has layers of unions. When you go to the health sector, there is the Association of Resident Doctors, Association of Professional Doctors, non-allied workers, non-head practitioners.
Senior Staff Association of Health Workers.
In
the same sector.
Same sector.
Right.
You discover that you have more congresses of agitation than than people who are providing services.
Right.
This is with no prejudice to the health sector. It's also happening in the educational sector. It's also happening in the agricultural sector. So it's a gamut of unionization. We were privy to what happened with the NMA, NBA recently,
right,
where a series of agitation, accusation of how monies have been embezzled by officials and the rest. Without even talking about how its members are faring. What can be done? Is it housing for lawyers? Is it roads, the public transportation for them? Is it mortgage and the rest of it? Is it healthcare, insurance and the rest? Nobody's talking about that. And that body exists to see to the welfare of its member. So it boils down to our ethos as a people. What actually are we aiming at? Are we actually out to address the very problems that the society presents, or we're just out to enrich ourselves at the detriment of the position we find ourselves? Because what I see, it's more like aspiration of elitism. Everybody wants to be somewhere so that it can benefit from a system, no matter how small it is. That patriotic zeal, it's not manifesting in most of us. I'm sorry, and that is a reality. Otherwise, the kind of resources that we have as a country, as a nation, the people are not supposed to be in this condition that we find ourselves.
A few weeks after President Tinubu took over power, he started engaging straight away with labor. And some people argued at that point and said, look, this is light at the end of the tunnel, because never a time, at least in our recent history, have we seen that kind of robust engagement where the president himself is coming to interface with the leadership of the organized labor. But then, fast forward to a few more weeks down the line, ministers are appointed and ultimately inaugurated, and today we have immediate past governor of Plateau State being the Minister of Labor, all right, and Employment. Some persons have raised question marks over what they call the legacy of labor crisis that he left in Plateau, including failure to pay salaries, all right, which he said he had done for the first few months having taken office, but that, again, got taken over by events. They say his reputation as governor of Plateau State has a way of rubbing off on labor's perception of this government. I don't know what your assessment of that situation is.
He is an individual and not an institution. The office does not own him. He fits into the office.
Right.
Before him, there have been that labor ministry. So his disposition has nothing to do with the outcome of what is expected. It's a template, and you must follow it. What are your mandates? So if it happens in Plateau State and he wasn't a good manager of resources or people, that actually should not translate. It doesn't mean it's going to happen here. We're talking of Nigeria. And besides, it's surrounded by avalanche of technical expertise. You know, the ministry has, you know, public servants, you know, and the rest of it. So you don't expect that he is going to run a one-man show. So that is not even the issue. The issue is the will.
To do the right thing.
Is the will to do the right thing. You know, if we're sincere with leadership, we're not supposed to be on air debating how governance should be. You know, we're not, you know, he's not reinventing the wheel as a minister of labor. It's already an existing template that ordinarily should automatically, you know, transition to good governance, to dividends for the people. But when you lack political will and the sincerity to make things happen, this is where we have problem. Negotiation between the labor union and the federal government, it will continue to be as long as the society lives or continue to exist.
Right.
So you can't actually detach that. It's been there before now, and it will continue to be. So what we, the masses, are interested more is how these dividends can actually trickle down to the common man. Once that happens, whatever happens between labor and the federal government does not really, if I have water, if I have food, if I have security, if that's, you know, my kids are in school affordably, do I really need to be worried about what the Minister of Labor does in terms of negotiation? You know, if there are equal, you know, templates for good governance, the agitation will definitely reduce. Where you have constant electricity, you know, good roads, you know, robust agricultural produce, and the rest of it. Would there be any need for agitation? No. That office would automatically become redundant because the people are not agitated. You know, this is what governance should actually begin to look like, where we have less of talking, more of doing. You know, once that happens, the society is better off for it. But as it is today, every day we keep engaging. If ASUU is not negotiating with government, NMA is doing that, another union is doing that. So for how long are we going to be having this kind of distractions in governance? I want to see the Minister of Labor on industrial sites more often, supervising productions of cashew in Benue State, in Kogi State, of mango fruits in Benue, you know, of ginger production in Kaduna, you know, of grains in Zamfara. You know, this should be what our aspiration should be, not every day converging in posh offices or hotels debating how workers' welfare should be. Definitely, it can never be enough for an average worker.
Right.
You know, it's part of the ladders of aspirations. You want to really definitely want to have more and more and more and more because of the reality that comes with the economy, the inflation. If you're giving 100,000 naira today, believe you me, the next minute in the market, the price of food will go up.
Right.
So your 100,000 will not actually accommodate the reality in the market. The market force will definitely render your 100,000 useless. So, but where we have critical infrastructures working, you know, the money in your pockets will definitely, the impacts will definitely reduce somehow because you don't have to go and carry keg and go to filling station to buy petrol for your generator. You know, you don't have to use your car and come to office when there is a public, you know, a robust public transport, a rail system.
Train, yeah.
You know, life becomes very convenient and conducive. Then the propensity to want to agitate and ask for more will reduce. But when, in the absence of all this, when you are the government unto yourself, expect that there will always be agitation.
Right. Okay, that's how we turn to next discussion, everyone. This week, one of the biggest conversations across this country is President Bola Tinubu's 100 days in office. That has become very traditional across the world, including in the U.S., whose democracy we say we are modeling. All right. So, what exactly has happened in the last 100 days of President Bola Tinubu in office? What has changed? What drastic actions has he taken? What policies has he brought on board? And in what ways have those policies been implemented so far? What impact have they had across sectors? We want to quickly look at that in the next few minutes. So, Haruna, I'm going to ask you this. I mean, President Bola Tinubu takes office right there in the middle of his inaugural speech. He says fuel subsidy is gone.
It's gone.
And then he goes ahead to talk about fiscal policy, monetary policy. Of course, days after that, up to this point, he continues to take actions. Some of them pronouncements that get actioned, others critically policy issues, and so on and so forth. Walk me through your candid, dispassionate assessment of his actions.
Like I always believe, government is a continuum.
Right.
Nobody is coming with a new template. You're not reinventing the wheel. You continue from where others stop. And so far, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's ascendancy as president of this very great country has been relatively pleasurable, if I'll use that word. There seems to be hope in the horizon. You know, there seems to be light, not at the end of the tunnel this time around, from the beginning of the tunnel. You know, I'll be more specific in terms of manufacturing policies. First was his, what is it called? His fiat that the Ajaokuta, you know, the steel industry should come back to life. Well, what did he do? First of all, he unbundled the Ministry of Solid Mineral and Steel. You know, he created the Ministry of Solid Mineral different from the Steel Development Ministry.
Right.
That is a man that really wants to go into manufacturing, into production, and not relying on foreign imports. You know, and one man from that particular region of this country, Kogi State, Prince Shoaibu Abubakar Audu, was made the Minister of Steel. It tells you that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu wants something great to happen in Nigeria. He appointed a son of the soil that this steel that is domiciled in Ajaokuta, in Itakpe, and other places must roll back to life. It must go beyond rhetorics. This time around, we're not talking, it's not going to be talked about on paper. It's going to be tangible. And what happens? There's been response, favorable response to that pronouncement. That is where I'm coming from. Over the years, the steel industry has been in comatose. But this time around, the president gave a mandate that this must happen. First, what the minister did was to announce an insurance coverage for the steel industry. What that means is that the ease of doing business become very attractive. Foreign investors, local investors are now rushing into the steel sector. Hitherto, before it wasn't like that,
Right.
but now there is interest. We are moving away from oil dependence to agricultural to steel production. That is industrializing a nation. And if this is given the right political will, expect that Nigeria will be, the steel industry will be like the Russian steel industry, because we have it. You know, then when you look at the agricultural prospect, enough money and incentive has been going right. The next farming season should be a robust one for Nigerians. Security-wise, we've seen a decline in terms of insurgency and banditry. That has reduced drastically. With the change in leadership of the service chiefs, at least we can see, that we are actually making progress. You don't expect economy that has bled from global recession, COVID-19, to automatically shoot up
Overnight.
overnight. It doesn't happen. So we are in that process. And as a development prone journalist, I always advocate that, you know, we should try not to limit ourselves to the woes of the society by always projecting the ills. We should be talking about the prospect that the country has to offer. So you won't find me talking about saying that the president has failed. If he fails, I fail. Rather, we should begin to talk of where can be improved. Once that happens, we are better in for it. We're not in a contest of who is the worst or best president. We're in a contest of how good the country can be, regardless of our party affiliations, you know, and interests. The utmost is the country.
Right.
And things must actually work. So if you ask me, so far, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has shown leadership. There's renewed hope, whether you like it or not. And with little distraction or no distraction at all, in the next few years, Nigeria should be, you know, robust in terms of economy, you know, political stability, and the rest of it. We are almost there. And if with the ministers on board and everybody doing his or her biddings, you know, expect that the country will be better off for it. And the governors must align themselves with the vision of the president. Because the president...
across party lines?
Yes, across party. You know, political parties are just medium of aspirations.
But in Nigeria, that's only in principle. In practice, people would always fall back to their native homes, which in this case are their respective political parties.
If I am from Enugu State and I'm of the PDP or Labour Party, my people should feel the impact of governance more than the people in Zamfara who are or Katsina who are APC. It should be a contest of good governance. You know, political party, like I say, as a platform for aspirations. Good governance lies with the leaders. You know, whether you're PDP or APC or Labour Party or what SDP, what matters is governance. Because the man in Otoke and the man in Kauranamoda, what he wants is food on his table. It's security, it's basic education, sound health, you know, care, and the rest of it. He's not interested in your political party. Give him the dividends of democracy that comes with good governance. It's fine. So I am not interested in the political parties. I'm interested in what you can offer as a leader. So all governors, regardless of their political parties, must align with the vision of the president. The vision of the president is to take Nigeria to the desired level, because nobody wants a nation under his administration to fail or under his care to fail. What he wants is that everything must go well for every citizen, whether you voted him or not. That has passed. The election is gone. What he has now, he's the father or he's the leader of all Nigerians, regardless of tribe, political parties, and the rest of it. So what the people want is good governance. And the governors must align with the president to provide that. Because if there's failure of governance in Rivers State, it will affect governance in the center. The president will be blamed. If there's good governance in Kogi State, the president will be praised. So he's like the pilot, the driver of the vehicle called Nigeria, and the other co-drivers are the state governors. So they must come together and ensure that good governance trickle down to every Nigerian.
Some of the landmark decisions, or if you like, actions that the president has taken so far includes the suspensions of former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, and then the chairman of the Economic Financial Crimes Commission, Abdul Rashid Bawa. Both of those institutions now have two gentlemen serving in acting capacity, heading those institutions. Are we confident enough now, given all we have seen following these two suspensions, that these institutions are well off today than they were weeks ago?
Like I said, we're more interested in individuals, powerful individuals, not institutions. nations.
But isn't that the reality of how institutions run?
It ought not to be that way.
But that's what it is.
But we must, disconnect from that reality. Individuals should not shape governance. Like I said, institutions are not built based on the idiosyncrasies of individuals, but by the vision of a nation. Like the CBN was not created for Emefiele.
Right.
If he drops dead today, before then, if he had dropped dead, governance will continue at the Apex Bank. So because there are structures that the institution has actually put in place, so it's expected that there will never be a vacuum. We're talking of policy, we're not talking of family decision. The Emefiele or the governor of CBN will not take decision without, feedbacks from experts, contribution from experts, in that institution. The same thing it will not, the same thing with the EFCC. It's an institution that the head, it's only a driver that coordinates administration, that coordinates operations. So if the absence of any of these persons should definitely naturally not affect governance at that institution. So it's an end of an era. The EFCC man has done his bit and he's gone. There's a new person. The system, it's preparing him to be confirmed or otherwise. It's normal. So it should not, their sack should not affect the running of those institutions. The same thing with other institutions in Nigeria. That's not as such should actually happen. If there's no president, the vice president continues in acting capacity. If the vice president is not there, there will be the Senate president. You see, governance is a layer. It was created never to exist in vacuum. Even at our home front, if the father is not there, the mother takes precedence. If the mother is not there, the most eldest. So it's traditionally like that vacuum must never exist in a human existence.
I want to say a very big thank you to you, Abdullahi Haruna, for coming to talk to us this morning about these very critical issues. We do not take your time for granted. We do hope you have a great day ahead, and hopefully you are not trapped in between on account of today's strike.
We'll be surviving strikes in Nigeria. As students will survive it. So
that's right.
Here we are again. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone. That's what we're living in this morning. Whatever you do, remain patriotic. It's not about political parties or individuals. It's about the fact that God has given us a nation to cater to, and we each have a responsibility to discharge that obligation every other day on account of the things we say about our country and how we treat our country. And we are Mofuegbe here at Global Television saying thank you for spending a part of your morning with us. I'll see you again. Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle with ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The